All right. Well, welcome to our next episode of Journey to Thriving. I'm so excited to have Elena with us today. And she is a pharmacist in the New York, New Jersey area and is very passionate about functional medicine based on her own journey. So I'm excited for you guys to hear more about that today. So, welcome, Elena.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes, yes. So why don't you just kick us off by where you are, what you're doing, and sort of how did functional medicine come up be a part of your life?
Okay, so I'm in between New York City, Brooklyn, Manhattan, and I'm also on the Jersey Shore in Bradley Beach. So I'm having a nice little balance between the
Yeah,
concrete
city
jungle
life.
and the beach life.
Yeah.
And yeah, so how much time do we have? Because it's a long journey, but basically it started with I I it must have been happening for, like, over 10 years. I had a lot of hormonal imbalances. I was kind of chaotic, and I never felt normal, and but it got really to a point during COVID where I was having this crazy hormonal acne. Like, I always had acne my whole life, but then during COVID, I was like, "Oh, well, maybe it's the mask." Like, I don't know what it is. But it just really was taking over my face in a way that it never had before, to the point where, like, I came into my boss's office to help her with something, and she was just like, I took my mask off, and she was like, what happened to your face?" And I was like, "Oh my God, I have no idea."
Yeah.
So I started kind of, and I'm just a regular pharmacist at this point. I really don't know much about holistic and nutrition and anything. Like, I just, so whatever. I start going to a few doctors. I'm like, this is obviously hormonal. And I go to an OB, and I have every symptom that you could think of, like the hair loss and the weird hair growth, like on my chin, like those little chin stragglers, and just this really bad acne everywhere. And I come in, and they did like an ultrasound, and they find all these cysts on my ovaries, and they're like, "Okay, you have PCOS. We can put you on birth control." And I'm like, "I can't go on birth control. I have been on this like journey for the last 10 years on and off birth control, and I just can't do it." And they're like, "Okay, well, that's all you can do." And I was like, "Okay, bye." And then I started thinking, like, why do people sometimes come into the pharmacy, like, women my age getting metformin for like their hormonal things? And then I started digging deeper into that. And I learned about insulin resistance, and I learned about functional medicine. And I was like, this is it. Like, I want to learn more about this, and I want to do this. So eventually I figured out that I had insulin resistance, and maybe in like 2 to 4 weeks I started some supplements, and my skin totally cleared up, and I felt amazing, and I was just like, I need to learn everything about this. um, so that's what started me on my functional medicine journey. And then um, it's evolved over the last 2 or 3 years as I developed Graves' disease, which is an autoimmune condition that causes your thyroid to be hyperactive or overactive. And do you want that whole story?
Yes, please.
Okay. So it started with me going into my primary care doctor and being like, I'm really tired. Like, I cannot function. I don't know what's going on. Is this like a low thyroid? I was cold. I was constipated. I just couldn't, I had no energy, so much fatigue.
Yeah.
And she did a lot of testing on me. Like, she tested all my nutrients. I had like low B2 and all this stuff. And she basically, my thyroid hormones were like on the low end of the range, but they were still normal. So she was like, everything looks good. You are fine. I'm like, can you send me a copy of these labs?
Hmm.
So I look over them myself, and I'm like, I have nutrient deficiencies. My ferritin literally has an L next to it. It's 9, and it says L for low. Like, how did you
Right.
not tell me to take iron?
Yeah.
Um, and I saw that my thyroid hormones were on the lower end. So I asked her, I was like, should I be taking iron? She's like, no, you're good. I'm like, oh, okay. Anyway, I didn't listen to her, and I started taking like non-constipating iron, and I started like a thyroStim supplement. supplement,
Mhm.
sorry.
No, fine.
Um, and yeah, it worked. Like, after a few weeks, I was like, "Oh, I feel really good, like, I have energy, I'm not freezing all the time," and then after, like, maybe 2 months of taking it, I was like, "Maybe I need to cool it down, like, lower the dose on this supplement because I was feeling really hot all the
Yeah.
time, and I was, like, really jittery, and I was like, "Oh, maybe, I'm just sensitive to coffee now." So I stopped drinking coffee and I lowered the supplement, but the symptoms didn't really go away, and I had a really high resting heart rate, like, looking at my watch, it was like I'd be laying in bed and it was like 130, 140.
Wow.
Um, yeah, so that wasn't fun, but I was just like, "Alright, I feel pretty good, I'm just, like, a little shaky, it's not a big
It's just
deal.
a little shaky.
It's
Don't
just
mind us.
fine, I just won't drink coffee," which, and then it was like a reality check because I had, like, an important meeting that I was nervous for, and the second I got on the call, I felt the left side of my face go numb, and I was
Mm.
like, "Ooh, like, am I having a stroke?" It was super strange, and then I was like, "Okay, let me go to the doctor, this is not normal." So I go to the doctor, they do my labs, they send me to cardiology, and then finally we figure out that it's Graves' disease. And then I had the lovely pleasure of developing thyroid eye disease, which is it has to do with Graves' disease. About 50% of people go on to develop it, but yeah, I was one of those lucky ones, that basically causes all these symptoms with your eyes, some cosmetic, like your eyes might bulge, both of them or one or the other, but then there's also more severe symptoms like vision loss, double vision, blurry vision, so, yeah, I was one of the lucky ones.
With that. Yeah. So where did you go? I mean, you obviously there's a place with Graves that we have to keep people out of danger, right? So we have to like potentially use medications to bring down that heart rate and make someone in a more safe space. So tell us about that process and then when you were like, hey, like this isn't what I want to do. I want to figure this out naturally.
Absolutely. So I started everything conventional because I
Yeah.
was freaked out. I was like,
Yeah.
"I'm too
Yeah.
young to have a stroke. I don't want
Exactly.
any of this." Um, so I went to an endocrinologist and he was wonderful and he started me on a low dose of methimazole, 5 milligrams daily, and it worked really well. After like a week, all of those hyperthyroid symptoms kind of went away and I felt pretty stable, just a little like tired because when you have like this elevated heart rate and you're hyperthyroid, like everything is happening really fast in your body and it kind of fatigues you. So I had a little bit of fatigue. But everything was fine. And then I would say maybe 6 months into taking methimazole, I started feeling all of the hypothyroid symptoms again. And so I went back to him and he was like, "It's too soon to take you off of methimazole." And I was like, "I don't care. I'm tapering off." So he's
Yeah.
like, "Okay, so start with, half a tablet daily or every other day." And then I eventually figured out the taper on my own because he didn't want it to be such a severe taper. And I was just like, I can't, like, I don't feel okay. And I'm not going to keep over medicating myself. So I did start to taper off, and at this point, when I felt like I was more stable, I was like, "Let me introduce all the functional medicine things," and it was like a slow roll. I was like, "Well, I heard selenium is good for the thyroid eye disease," so I added on the selenium. Vitamin D was a little low, so I added on vitamin D. Fish oil, great anti-inflammatory, added that on, and things got a little better, but I was kind of fluctuating because when you're tapering off of methimazole and your thyroid is still kind of bursting, like it's one day it's hyper and then one day it's
Yeah.
hypo, and then you're taking the medicine and you get even more hypo and then it bounces back. So it's like a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Um, and I was doing some herbal supports with that, some lemon balm because it's a calming adaptogen, and it also helps lower the T3 just a teeny tiny bit, but it worked really well for me. And then I felt pretty stable. I was at a point where I was taking like a quarter of a methimazole every 2 weeks. Like, I'm
Okay.
basically
Yeah.
done. And then I got sick. I was traveling in Mexico and we all got a stomach bug and some kind of virus, potentially COVID, unclear. Um, and then all of a sudden, my thyroid eye disease, which started with my left eye bulging and my right eye not as much, my left eye started drooping and my right eye started bulging. And I'm just like at my wit's end at this point. I'm feeling severely hypothyroid, so I stopped the methimazole altogether. And I think that's like when I took the next step and I was like, I need to do functional medicine testing at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. So what did you uncover? What kind of tests did you do and what did you find?
Yeah, so I just had this suspicion. I was like, either I'm really hypothyroid or I'm just really low cortisol, which could be, a result of being ill or something. So I don't know. My thyroid labs were still kind of on the higher end of the range, but I had every hypo symptom. So of course I did a thyroid panel, TSH, free T3, free T4, reverse T3 was a little elevated. Still had the antibodies, the TSI and the TRAB, but they were trending down at this point. So functionally, then I was like, all right, let's take a look at the gut because I was in Mexico and I did a stool test there and I had a
Okay.
parasite come up. So I had started antibiotics for that because that was all I had when I was
Yeah.
there. And they were terrible. Oh my God. The side effects were so bad. It helped me for like a week and then it
Yeah.
wasn't enough. So came back, did a GI map, and my GI map was a total mess. Um, I had H. pylori, still had the Blastocystis hominis parasite that came up in Mexico. I had like Enterococcus. I don't even remember. There was like 4 or 5 other overgrowths,
Yeah.
and as well as leaky gut. So total mess. I also did a Dutch test, which kind of confused me because it had a kind of normal looking cortisol response curve, but um, my metabolized cortisol maybe was pretty low, and
Yeah.
it was like a little unclear what was happening. And I was like, you know what, maybe we need to figure out the GI stuff, and then the cortisol will even out.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, the stress that we are going under, like in our bodies, like some of it is that perceived stress, things that never really happen, but some of it is, or even the things that are happening to us. But then there's that internal component, right? If we have imbalanced blood sugars or gut stuff that's like causing inflammation in the body, that inflammation alone is triggering the stress response in our body. And I think people forget about that. I think they think of stress just as the psychological piece, but if our body isn't balanced, that also feeds back and causes stress.
Absolutely. And I think like it's not always just perceived stress, but like people don't understand. Like they might be like, oh, I wake up in the morning and I do a high intensity workout and I feel
Yeah.
really good. But your cells inside are like, alert, I don't like this. Make it stop,
Right.
know?
Yeah. Yeah, if you're not balanced and it can sort of set you over the edge, I think there, yeah, hit training is a lot of people are overdoing it for sure in a lot of cases. So you did the GI map, you did a protocol, I assume, a healing protocol with that. And then was that really just like the thing that made a huge difference, or is it still just sort of progressive things that are adding up to make a big difference in your symptoms?
It made a huge, huge difference. It really was like a turning point for me. I started like a 3-month protocol with a bunch of antimicrobial herbs, some gut healing herbs and supplements, and just some nutrients. And I'd say after like a month, the my eyes just kind of normalized. And by the 3-month mark, like they were looking amazing. It barely looked like I had thyroid eye disease
Yeah.
anymore. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish my protocol and then I'm gonna retest. So I did a metabolomics test to see like what my nutrient status was and all of that. And it came back pretty good. I had some nutrient deficiencies, so then I corrected those and I feel pretty good now.
Good, good. Yeah. So Metabolomics is a test from Genova Diagnostics, but there's all kinds of different companies that offer this. Just for our audience, the organic acids testing. So these are actually urinary metabolites that show us actually what's happening in the energy in your mitochondria, which I think is like fascinating because I think back to like biochemistry and like myself sitting there as a probably like 22-year-old person, like thinking like, okay, why do I need to know this? Like, how is this impacting? And certainly drug therapy like impacts different parts of those cycles. But it's just fascinating that now we're sitting here looking at your report of your, Krebs cycle and understanding it more from a like how do we bring balance to the body through, people can look at direct blood levels, which still is helpful if that's the first step is looking at a B12 or a B6 or B1 or whatever level. But this sort of gets down to the cellular level. And also, there's so many like things that can inhibit the Krebs cycle. So, whether that's toxins or stress or other things that are sort of causing it to slow down, we might actually need more B6, even though our B6 level is normal, or more magnesium or more iron, even though like blood levels are normal based on like what our body's experiencing it. So when I was talking to a patient about it yesterday, she was like, "Oh my goodness, I didn't realize like you could like individualize like this as much as, you are." So I think right now, like that test, because it's a simple like finger stick urine collection, doesn't require anyone to go to the lab. Plus doing, and there's other companies. I mean, Diagnostic Solutions has one. Vibrant has some organic acids. There's, I think, Mosaic Diagnostics, all kinds of places. So different providers have different preferences. For which ones they use and why. But adding on an organic acids to a gut test, I feel like tells you so much about a person. And I mean, certainly we can add in food sensitivities and other things as driving factors of inflammation. But I think like it's just such a great picture to start with. And like, how do we bring back balance of your nutrition and functional medicine? We always talk about it at, like, I think people think it's woo woo at times because there's the integrative part where it's maybe a little more out there of like therapeutic dosing certain things. But like with functional medicine, we're really just trying to bring back balance to the body and help that Krebs cycle help our energy, help, break down fats and proteins. And one of the test results I got back recently, I think we talked about last night in our grand rounds, this lady, like she was missing all kinds of amino acids, which are building blocks to every cell in your body. So certainly you're not going to have a good metabolism and all of these things if you are missing those components. So super, I think it's something I'm just like, I mean, still learning like all of this and how many years I've been into this, because I think at first, like, it was like, okay, focus on gut, focus on gut. And then over time, it's like, okay, well, that gets people so far, but adding in some of these other layers, I think really moves the needle for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's so true, and it's super insightful, like, it's not just nutrients, like, it was checking my fish oil status and how I
Yeah.
metabolize things and, like, heavy metals and things. I had some
Hmm.
weird heavy metals come up
Hmm.
that it just made me really question, like, "Oh, okay, like, maybe I should change all my jewelry, make sure it's silver
Yeah.
or whatever," and,
Yeah.
yeah, I kinda went a little crazy with that trying to figure out what it was.
An excuse to
Um
buy new jewelry isn't bad, right?
Yes, yes, much needed. And then I forgot to mention that I noticed, and maybe this is after my GI protocol, but from my metabolomics, I was able to figure out that I had some Candida in my gut,
Hmm.
which didn't come up on my GI map. I don't know if that developed later or if it just
Yeah,
didn't pick it up. So I was able to address that. And when I did the anti-Candida protocol, I mean, my eyes got even better. Like,
that's
I was
awesome.
already happy. I was like, "This is good," but then it got even better. I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah,
this
that's
is
great.
amazing."
Yeah, Candida is interesting because, like, I mean, we can test it in the blood, we can test antibodies to Candida, but we can also test it on a stool sample. But I don't think it grows out as well on culture. And so, or even like when you're doing PCR, you're looking for specific strains of it. And so you're only looking for what you're looking for. And some of the tests look for 3 or 4 strains, actually, not even strains, like phyla like of it. And then other tests look for a little bit more. So like it's hard to pick up, I think. And so when I do see it on a stool test, I'm like, okay, we got to do something about this, even though it might be lower. And it is a normal flora. So I think that's the thing. People see it and they're like, oh my goodness. And but so there is, you should have some, right, in your gut, but we shouldn't have excessive amounts. But that's where like the organic acids also, yeah, can shine and bring in that additional component. Like this byproduct of yeast is really high. The D is D-arabinol, and there's another one that are related to yeast. So yeah, and I've had people sit in front of us that have a fully coated tongue. They're like thrush, they've got yeast growing in their mouth, and certainly if it's growing in your mouth, it's going down your digestive system. So those kind of people need to use some antimicrobial herbs in their toothpaste too to help get rid of it. But that person, like everything we did, no yeast detected on their stool, on their blood, like antibodies, all the things. And it's like, okay, well, you still have yeast, right? Like in this clinical picture. So it is one that's a little bit challenging to pick up on, but symptoms, anxiety, and gut. We can see it sometimes even on like barrier panels, like looking at permeability panels, like the KBMO test too. So you find it in different places, but it can be, especially if you've had high dose antibiotics or just chronic antibiotic use, can be a common thing that definitely can cause damage to the gut lining. So yay that it improved your eyes, as well as probably your thyroid health, which is a little harder to physically see. So
Yeah, yeah, but you
yes,
feel it.
yes, you feel it for sure. So to close up, tell me a little bit more about like what you're passionate about helping people with, and sort of how people can find you, and sort of just what your next steps in your career are.
Sure. So, as I was going through this journey with Graves and TED, thyroid eye disease, I was like feeling really, really isolated. And like, I was Googling things and it was all like really scary. And I was like, you know what, it doesn't have to be that scary. And then I started finding communities and I was just like, I want to give back to my community and I want to be more active here. So I kind of just ended up becoming like an advocate for it. And I started hosting a free monthly support group to actually connect with people because I realized there was a real need for this. Like, I don't know anyone who has Graves, like, I mean, now I do, but when it's
Yeah.
just starting and, like, you wanna ask questions and you wanna be like, "What's happening to me? Is this normal? Like,
Yeah.
what can I expect?" And it's just like, there's nothing out there, just, like, scary things on Google.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I started this support group, so we meet monthly. It's kind of like we always switch the days, but I do have it listed on my website. I'm pretty active on Instagram and on TikTok. You can find me at soulscript.co. And I'm Thyroid Love Club on TikTok.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I made a guide for people who are just starting out or who have been through this for a while, and they're just looking for answers. I kind of just compiled everything that I've learned in this journey and put it together in like a digital guide. Um, and I'm working on a course so that people can kind of like a self-guided course so they can do their own thyroid journey alongside their endocrinologist, alongside their functional medicine provider, their holistic provider, whoever.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm available for one-on-one consultations as well to help anyone who needs some guidance on their journey.
Yeah. Yeah. Selena is part of our farm to table team. And if you are in New York, you can see her as your provider. And if you're in another state, we have Elena partnering as a health coach, and helping alongside one of our other pharmacists licensed in your state. So we will have information on our website specific to this as well. So thank you so much for joining. I know that what you're doing is definitely making a huge impact. And I think we see that by people continuing to follow and engage with you because they are struggling with some of these same things. And with our state of our world, with the gut health and toxins and all the things, I think more people are having autoimmunity, whether it's Graves or other conditions, more and more. So they definitely need all the support. So yeah, well, thank you so much. And you can find her on Instagram and TikTok. You want to say those handles one more time?
Sure. So on Instagram, it's soulscript.co, which is also my website. And on TikTok, it's Thyroid Love Club.
All right. Well, have a great day.
Thank you so much. Take care.